The wind howled across the empty plains that evening, carrying the scent of rain and dust, whispering stories of things long lost. The sun had started its slow descent behind the distant mountains, painting the sky with streaks of orange and bruised purple. Somewhere along the faded trail leading to nowhere, a woman walked alone, her clothes torn, her hands shaking, and her eyes, those hollow, storm-colored eyes, looked like they'd seen too much pain for one lifetime. Her name was Lila Monroe, once a small-town girl with dreams too big for her pockets, now nothing but a shadow chasing survival. Her past clung to her like smoke, years of betrayal, the wrong kind of love, and a mistake that cost her everything she ever called home. She hadn't spoken to anyone in days. Her shoes worn through, her body numb, her heart running on the thin thread of exhaustion. And then came the sound of hooves, steady, heavy, determined. When she turned, the last thing she expected to see was him. Jack Callahan, a tall, rugged cowboy astride a chestnut stallion, hat tipped low, eyes the color of a storm about to break. He pulled his horse to a stop, scanning her with the kind of quiet strength that made time slow down. "You lost?" he asked, voice deep and rough, the kind that could both comfort and command. Lila tried to speak but only managed a whisper, "Does it matter?" He studied her for a long moment before dismounting, his boots crunching against the gravel as he approached. "Out here everything matters," he said, offering her a canteen of water. She hesitated, suspicion flickering in her eyes, but thirst won. As she drank, he noticed the way her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of something invisible. "Where you headed?" he asked. She shook her head, a bitter smile ghosting her lips. "Nowhere worth mentioning?" The cowboy's gaze softened. "Then you're headed the same place I am." They rode in silence for miles after that, the desert stretching endlessly around them. Jack led her to his ranch, a quiet piece of land tucked between the hills, guarded by old fences and a loyal dog named Duke. It wasn't much, but it felt like peace. He gave her a place to rest, a meal, and the space to breathe without questions. But questions were all he had in his heart. Who was she? What was she running from? That night, as rain began to fall softly on the tin roof, he found her standing on the porch, staring into the dark. "You should sleep," he said. She didn't turn. "I don't sleep easy." "Then sit with me," he offered, pulling up a chair. They sat side by side, the sound of rain filling the spaces between words they hadn't found yet. Finally she whispered, "You don't even know me, cowboy. Why are you helping me?" He leaned back, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "'Cause once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it either." She looked at him then, really looked, and for the first time, something inside her cracked. "You shouldn't have," she murmured, her voice breaking. "I'm not worth saving." Jack's gaze didn't waver. "Then I'll save you twice," he said simply, the words falling like a promise carved into eternity. Lila turned away, tears glistening in her eyes, the kind of tears that came from the soul's deepest corner, the place that still believed in miracles but had forgotten how to ask for them. Days passed like pages in a forgotten diary. Jack worked the ranch with quiet precision, and Lila helped where she could, feeding the horses, mending fences, finding small pieces of herself in the rhythm of his world. There was a gentleness in him that scared her more than cruelty ever did. It was patience, steady and relentless, like the tide that wears down even the sharpest stone. One evening, as the sunset burned the sky to gold, she found herself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in years. Jack had told a story about his childhood, something about a wild bull and a pond that swallowed his pride. The sound of her laughter startled them both. He looked at her with something soft and dangerous in his eyes. "That's better," he said quietly. "You look human when you smile." She turned away, her cheeks warming. "Don't get used to it," she said, but her voice lacked its usual armor. That night, she couldn't sleep. She wandered outside, watching the stars stretch across the black sky, feeling both small and alive. The past crept up on her like a shadow, memories of a man who broke her, of choices that left scars deeper than skin. Jack found her there, shivering beneath the vast silence. "You don't have to fight the ghosts alone," he said softly. She shook her head, tears streaming freely now. You don't understand. I ruined everything I ever touched. My family's gone. My name means nothing. I'm just what's left of a mistake." Jack took a step closer, his voice steady as stone. "No one's beyond redemption. Leela, you don't know what I've done," she whispered. "Don't need to. I know who you are now, and that's enough." Her heart clenched. Nobody had ever said that to her before. Nobody had ever seen her for who she was, instead of what she'd done. The next morning, she found a note on the table. "Gone to town for supplies. Don't run." It made her laugh, a small, reluctant laugh that cracked her chest open. She spent the day cleaning, cooking, feeding the horses, trying not to think about the way her heart felt less heavy in this place. But the peace didn't last long. Near sunset, a truck pulled into the ranch, a dusty old vehicle she recognized instantly. Her blood ran cold. From the driver's seat stepped Evan, the man she'd been running from, the one who'd taken everything from her and made her believe she was worthless. "Well, ain't this something?" he sneered. "Didn't think you'd crawl this far." Lila froze. "Leave," she said, her voice trembling. He laughed, a low, cruel sound. "Not till you come with me. You owe me." His words were poison, dragging her back into the darkness she'd barely escaped. Before she could move, Jack's voice cut through the air like a blade. "She doesn't owe you a damn thing." Evan turned, his smirk fading when he saw the cowboy standing there, rifle in hand, eyes cold and steady. "This ain't your fight," Evan said. Jack took a slow step forward. "Maybe not, but she's under my roof and I protect what's mine." The tension crackled like lightning. Lila stood between them, heart pounding. She'd spent her life running, breaking, hiding. But in that moment, something shifted. She stepped forward, voice shaking but strong. "I'm not yours anymore, Evan, and I'm not running again." Evan glared, his hand twitching toward his belt. But before he could move, Jack's voice came again, quiet, deadly calm. "Don't." The standoff stretched for what felt like forever, until Evan cursed, spat on the dirt and climbed back into his truck. "You'll regret this," he snarled before driving off into the dusk. The sound of the engine faded, leaving only the hum of cicadas and the hammering of Lila's heart. She sank to her knees, shaking, and Jack knelt beside her, pulling her into his arms. "It's over," he murmured, but she knew it wasn't, not yet. The ghosts don't die that easy. Still, in that moment, under the dying light of the sun, she believed him. For the first time in years, she believed someone when they said she was safe. And as he held her, his words from that first night echoed in her mind, "Then I'll save you twice." She didn't understand what that meant yet, but she knew this. Some souls are worth saving twice, if it means they finally learn to live once. Days turned into weeks, and life on the ranch slipped into a fragile peace. The mornings smelled of hay and coffee, and the evenings shimmered with sunsets that looked like they'd been painted for second chances. Lila had started to smile more often, her laughter returning like spring rain after a long drought. Jack watched her from a distance most days, letting her rebuild herself one quiet moment at a time. But he could see it, the fear that still lingered behind her eyes, the way her hands shook when thunder rolled, the way she flinched at sudden shadows. She was healing, but healing never comes without ghosts. One evening, while the wind whispered through the pines, Jack found her on the porch again, staring into the horizon. "You keep watching the sky like you expect it to run away," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "Maybe I do. Good things never stayed long in my life." Jack leaned on the railing beside her. "Maybe it's time you stopped letting them leave." She looked at him then, eyes glimmering like the stars overhead. "You talk like saving people's your job," he smiled. That slow, warm, stubborn kind of smile. "Only the ones who think they ain't worth saving. But peace doesn't last forever." One cold morning, Jack rode into town for supplies and didn't come back by sunset. When night fell, Duke began barking, wild, panicked. Leela's heart clenched. The headlights appeared over the ridge, and when the truck stopped, two men climbed out, Jack and the sheriff. Jack's lip was split, his knuckles bloodied, eyes dark with the storm he'd been holding back. "He's back," Jack said simply. "Evan?" She breathed. He nodded. "He's been asking questions." "About you." "About us." Her stomach turned to ice. "Then I should go," she said quietly. "I won't have you getting hurt because of me." Jack stepped closer. anger flickering in his voice. You think running again will fix it? No, Lila, you're done running. Not while I'm breathing. That night a storm hit. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder rolling like the voice of God himself. Lila couldn't sleep. She sat by the fire, clutching one of Jack's old shirts, breathing in the smell of dust and cedar. She didn't hear the door open until it was too late. Evan stood there soaked, eyes wild with rage and liquor. You think he can protect you? He snarled. You were mine. Lila froze, fear choking her. But before he could move closer, a voice thundered from behind him. Step away from her. Jack stood in the doorway. Shotgun leveled, rain dripping from his hat brim. Evan turned, spitting venom. You'd kill me for her? For trash? Jack's jaw clenched. No, but I'll do whatever it takes to stop you from hurting her again. The moment shattered in lightning. Evan lunged, a flash of metal in his hand. A gunshot roared through the night. Lila screamed. When the smoke cleared, Evan lay on the floor, bleeding, the knife fallen from his hand. Jack stumbled, clutching his shoulder, pain etched across his face. Jack! Lila cried, catching him as he fell to his knees. He grinned weakly. Told you I'd save you twice. Her tears fell hot onto his skin. Don't you dare leave me now, she whispered, pressing her hands over his wound. The sheriff burst in minutes later, chaos and sirens following. But all she could see was Jack, her cowboy, her protector, her proof that broken people could still be whole. Days later, when Jack woke in the hospital, the first thing he saw was her, Lila, asleep by his bedside, her hand wrapped around his. When she opened her eyes, she smiled through tears. You're still here, Jack chuckled weakly. Told you, I'm hard to get rid of. She leaned closer, her voice trembling. You didn't just save me. Jack, you showed me I was worth saving. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. No, sweetheart, you did that yourself. I just reminded you how. Outside, the morning sun rose over the hills, spilling gold across the plains. Life had a way of healing, of turning scars into stories. Lila never forgot the night she thought she'd lost everything. Or the cowboy who rode straight into the storm to bring her back. She stayed on that ranch, and together they built something stronger than the past. A new beginning, stitched together by grace, courage, and love that refused to quit. Because sometimes, when someone says they're not worth saving, what they really mean is they're waiting for someone brave enough to prove them wrong.